ABC. So I know I don't normally show my vinyl finds until the end of the month, but as you can see here, I've actually got a really solid stack of stuff already, even though I'm only halfway through. And you know, this weekend is a record show in Dallas, and who knows what else will happen the rest of the month. So I figured I'd go ahead and show everything I got so far. So I guess I'll call this part one for April, and then I'll update at the end if I get anything else, which I probably will. So yeah, first up is a bunch of stuff from Josie Records, because as I think I've said before, I feel like I go there a lot more than I used to, especially since I have moved a little bit closer to it. And so I got these two cassettes there, both really cool cassettes. I got Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth, single cassette. I'd like to get this on vinyl if I could, probably an original. I mean, I've seen reprices out there for not too much money, less than 30 bucks, but I like to get it on an LP. And I got this similar story with this one. I'd also like to get an original of this on vinyl, but it's The Cure, Pornography. I actually had to open this one up, the actual shell, and do a little bit of surgery on it because it had come separated. You can actually kind of see the repair job I did right there at the end of that tape, or I guess it's the beginning of the tape. Had just come separated from the spool, so I had to open it up and do a little tape job. It was the first time I've ever done that, and it was actually pretty successful. Really happy with that. Those are both kind of good deals too. I mean, they weren't like 50 cents or anything, but they're way less than they sell for online. Some used stuff from Josie. Well, I'll show the new stuff first. My girlfriend picked this one out. She really loves this record. It's Sturgill Simpson, The Sailor's Guide to Earth. From what I know about this, I think I won a Grammy for Best Country Record in 2016. I'm really familiar with the cover of In Bloom on here, which I think is really, really cool. And actually, I'm not the biggest fan of modern country, which I think a lot of people would agree with that, or at least the kind of stuff that gets played on the radio. But I do really think that's a good record in terms of a good variety of sound and good songwriting, good instrumentation, and actual physical musicianship. Like I said, I'm always a sucker for slide guitar or a pedal steel guitar, so it's nice. It's always nice to hear that. Per Danny's recommendation on Not Enough Records, I finally picked up the Offa Rex record, Queen of Hearts, from last year. If you hadn't heard about this, it's basically the Decemberists plus Olivia Chaney, who is a British singer-songwriter. Kind of, her voice, she's basically like a reincarnation of Sandy Denny from Fairport Convention in terms of voice and style of music she enjoys, and skill and musicianship. She's a multi-instrumentalist. She plays like harpsichord, this thing called a harmonium, or like an Indian harmonium, which looks really interesting. It's like a mix of organ and like an accordion. But yeah, the Decemberists, basically headed by Colin Malloy. They're on the far right. There's Olivia Chaney right there, and there's the rest of the band and some of their family. Really great record. It's a bunch of covers basically of either traditional songs or like 60s folk revival songs. Like one of the best ones on here is The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, which I'm blanking on who wrote that, but it's not really that old of a song, at least the arrangement of it is. And same with a bunch of these other songs. They're old songs, but maybe the arrangements are unique to the band or from the past 100 years or so. Really great record. I'm glad I finally picked this one up. It's also pretty cheap, single LP and all that. Okay, so the used stuff I got there. They got a huge buy of a bunch of Frank Zappa stuff. Tons of stuff I didn't have. I don't really know where to start with Zappa, so I just kind of picked. I only got one, but I picked kind of an obvious one. It's a really good copy of Hot Rats. And I don't know if you can see it. The cover's a little bit roached. It's not like it's falling apart or anything, but it's definitely got some heavier wear, and the spine's a little torn up. But the record, it had a sticker on it that said "Jacket jacket damage, but like VG Plus vinyl, and I opened it up and it was totally accurate. I mean, it's like really shiny and barely a scuff on it. So it plays really well, really awesome. It's definitely an early pressing. I don't know about original. It's definitely early though. Out of their $2 bin, I got the Red Rubber Ball by Circle. I had never realized that the title track Red Rubber Ball was written by Paul Simon. I just think that's kind of a fun fact, and I never knew that their manager was, I'm blanking on his name, Brian Epstein, from, you know, famous manager of the Beatles. And this is a 2i mono pressing from Columbia. Pretty cool to find that. And one I've actually been looking for a long time, and who I'd like to get a little more of their discography and a little more of this genre in general. That's the classic Let's Stay Together by Al Green. Classic cover there as well. Everybody knows the title track, but the whole record's good, and I've seen this one creeping up and up in price. Not that I've had really ever seen any copies in stores, but you know, this was only like 10 or 12 bucks, I think, so totally worth it at that price. I've seen them get more expensive than that, oddly enough. Okay, so this right here is a repress of Radio City by Big Star, which I know and love this record, but I hadn't had it pressing on vinyl. And Newbury Comics just had a sale. It was like a certain percentage off on vinyl. It was like 20 or 30% off, I think, including some of their exclusive pressings. So I picked up the limited variant of this, which I think is limited to 500. So if you're interested in this, hop on this pretty quick before it disappears or goes out of print, because Newbury Comics pressings tend to go up in value. But I just kind of had to grab this one. They lots of times will get colored pressings like that match the artwork super well. And you know, it sounds good, plays fine. It's nothing to write home about, but I had a modern repressing of #1 Record, which really kind of sucked. So I'm glad I have a different version of that now, and a good version of Radio City. Now I just need to pick up third. So then I also bundled from a seller, bundled these three for a good deal. This one I'd never heard of before. I kind of told him I was looking for anything on the SST label. So he had this up for sale that he kind of threw in. It's Divine Horseman. From what I know, it's well, first of all, produced by Chris D. And who's the guitarist on here? I don't know. Chris D is on the record too, on vocals and backing vocals. But someone else was from a different band. I want to say the Flesh Eaters. And split off and made this record. This one's from '87, so it's kind of a later SST band, but you know, it's a little more of an alternative thing as opposed to like hardcore or anything like that. So kind of interesting. Oh, I guess I'll open it up and show some of the inserts it came with. He didn't mention these, but I just thought they were super cool. I'd never really seen these before. It's a bunch of like SST catalogs and flyers and stuff. Well, there's an insert with the lyrics and seriously like a bunch of catalogs for pretty much all the other SST records or merchandise, cassettes, CDs, obviously LPs, t-shirts. You know, this kind of thing is just really cool because I've never seen it before. Stickers. Really interesting. So that was a nice little bonus. The record was decent, you know, not bad. I'll be hanging on to it. But in a lot of ways I was kind of almost more excited to see all those inserts and stuff than the actual record itself. But it was, you know, a good deal, especially bundled with these other two. It's a repress of Under the Big Black Sun by X, famous LA hardcore band. Just, you know, kind of classic. You can see it's pressing with a barcode, and I think it's on the Electro label. It's like red, has like a black pattern on it. So yeah, cool to get that. And I got this German pressing of Cluster and Eno. It's not the very first pressing. It's like a second pressing with a different address on the back. But just, you know, again, filling the gap in my Eno collection, which is getting better and better by the day, it seems like. And you know, this came out pretty much, I think, right before Ambient 1, and you can kind of hear he has that same style of playing on here. And the guys from Cluster, you know, have that really great kind of spacey post-rock, like proto-post-rock guitar playing. So they paired really well together. Many of you saw that video I put up recently digging through the new arrivals at the Vintage Freak nearby me. And the very first record in there, which is the only one I picked up out of there, was Future by the Seeds. I think this is their third record. I want to say 68 or maybe 67. Really solid Psych record, kind of garagey still. The only other one I have of theirs is their self-titled debut. I'd like to get the second one. I'd actually like to get their live record too. You know, it's original on the GMP Crescendo label, stereo pressing. Yeah, can't really go wrong with the Seeds. And then some Half Price Books stuff here. As you know, my girlfriend works there, gets 50% off, so it's hard to pass some of the stuff up for that price. So I guess I made this $5. It is Rock and Roll Animal by Lou Reed. I haven't spun this one yet, but I've heard good things about it. Obviously, I like all the songs. I love Lou Reed. I'm excited to hear the kind of extended versions of like Sweet Jane and Heroin. I think there's a super long version of Rock and Roll, which I'm kind of excited to hear, but yeah. Cool, pick that one up. I got this one by this band called Law Dispute, which I have, I think I have this on CD somewhere, and I have their second and third records on vinyl, and I like all of them. They're, it's like post-hardcore mixed with spoken word, so maybe if you mixed like, I don't know, Fugazi and like spoken word poetry, that would maybe be kind of close to this. If you know the band Touche Amore, they're kind of similar. They run in the same circles, that kind of thing. And I think they're actually coming out with a new record in the next year or two, possibly. I've heard rumors, but they've been on hiatus for a couple of years. I want to say like 4 years now. But this is their first record. I think came out in 2009. I'll go ahead and pull it out because it's a colored pressing. Both of them are the same, so I'll just pull out one. It's on this kind of cool, kind of opaque orange. I guess it's semi-translucent. You can see my hand behind it. Yeah, really great record. Like I said, it's their first full-length, gatefold jacket, all that. I think this one was $7 with the discount. So yeah, it's cool to pick up. And last one here is actually one of the coolest things I've ever found in any dollar bin at any store. I'm sorry, second to last thing. It's the last thing I got from Half Price Books. One of the coolest things I've ever got out of any dollar bin anywhere is this record, which I think is just called Deaf, Dumb, Blind. It has a subtitle, Summon Buckman Umyan by Pharoah Sanders. First pressing on the ABC Impulse label, you know. It has a scratch on it on the second side that I thought for sure was going to make it skip, and I guess the guys there thought it would too. But you know, for $1 I picked it up anyway, because other than that, it was like a nice VG copy, and the jacket's really nice, so couldn't really leave that behind for $1. And I put it on the table, and sure enough, it doesn't skip. I don't know what the deal is with that scratch. It actually barely made any noise at all. I thought for sure it was going to. You know, it was one of the ones where it was like kind of parallel to the grooves, which are always really dangerous because it's like hard to spot those in the store sometimes, and they just cause skips like crazy. So really cool to find this one. I actually prefer the second side of this because it in a lot of ways is, well, it's free jazz, you know, obviously with Pharoah Sanders, but in a lot of ways the second side is a little bit more like thematic, or I want to say like borderline on like ethereal or even like ambient or something like that. It's you know, you hear free jazz described as it sounds like, you know, 6 people playing 6 different songs, but the second side on this kind of is more of like a drone, or a, you know, there's like a soft just wave of sound constantly coming, with some, you know, soloing on top of it. So it was really nice. Really enjoyable listening here. That's the only Pharaoh Sanders I have too, and those get kind of expensive, so it's cool to find it for $1. So last thing I got here, I guess I'll tell a quick story. It's not really a story, it's just kind of what happened. So a dude on Reddit was looking for this record called, I think her name's Anais Mitchell. She's got a record called Hadestown, which is from like 2010, and it just got turned into an off-Broadway play or musical. So it's a musical. Abby's been a big fan for years, and she's kind of being vindicated because she's been saying for a while that it was going to be big, and now it's kind of blowing up. She's really happy about it. But so anyway, I got what? Yeah, I know, Justin Vernon from Bon Iver is on it. So yeah, check that one out if you've never heard it. But anyway, that's turning into a play, and so it's like a limited vinyl pressing of the you know, the original record. And this guy on Reddit was looking for it because we've had it for a while, a couple of months or longer, like a year and a half. So this guy on Reddit was looking for a copy because I guess they are basically out of print now, and you can't really buy it online anywhere. I looked on Discogs real quick, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize. But I knew there's a store close to us called Great Escape. Not Great Escape. I always mix it up with a store in Nashville called Great Escape, but there's a store not nearby us called Forever Young. They have basically every, or most new stock you could really think of, at kind of competitive prices to Amazon anyways, but sometimes. So I called them up because that's where we bought our copy, and I was like, hey, do you have this record? And he looked it up on the computer for me. He's like, yeah, we got it. So then I drove down there. I guess I'm only like 10-15 minutes away from it, so I went and grabbed it, grabbed something else too, and then sent it out to him. He gave me a nice little tip. So basically for free, I got this Black Flag called Family Man. And again, with the spoken word, this is more of a spoken word thing with the Black Flag punk instrumentals. Not so much necessarily hardcore, straightforward hardcore songs, but you know, still really cool. I would actually consider this, if you know I have another one of their records called The Process of Weeding Out, which is all instrumentals. But you know, there's also, I think, a couple instrumental tracks on here. But it's like a mix of that and some Henry Rollins spoken word type stuff, which is really cool. And you know, one of the classic lineups there, obviously with Rollins and Greg Ginn, Kira on bass, and Bill Stevenson on drums. So I'm not really sure about that one. But this one's from '84, obviously on the SST label, but on Discogs it's described as a light green label pressing. I think the very first one and a bunch of the represses, including the modern one, have like a kind of a highlighter or lime green label. This one has more of like a pale green white label. So that's how I know for sure it's like a second pressing. So yeah, that's all I got for this month, or the first half of the month. Wow. So like I said, record show on Saturday. Who knows what I'll find there, and who knows what I'll find the rest of the month. So I'll update at the end of the month with what I get. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Hope you guys take care.